Tua is undeniably a top 10 quarterback. No questions.
Listen, Lamar is a 2-time MVP. All that's left for him to do is to win the big one.
Miami Dolphins. I just want to say thank you for drafting that sorry bum Tua when you could have had Justin Herbert.
Jordan Love has the potential to be the best quarterback in the game. Hey, welcome back to Hot Route Takes. Today, we're going to do a little AFC and NFC South free agency review. We're just going to kind of pick a player from each team we thought was a good signing for good value, good fit, whatever the case may be. And then also kind of look at a player that was signed or traded for that we didn't think was a good fit or just too much money, not great value, whatever the case may be. And just, talk about the team for a minute, talk about where they may still have holes on the roster, and just kind of work our way through. We'll do 4 teams in the AFC South. And the NFC South, we're going to start with the Houston Texans, who had a number of moves. They won the AFC South last year and are looking to build on that and capitalize during this window with CJ Stroud on a rookie contract. And I think they did some pretty nice things. Christian, what really stood out to you?
I think I'm going to go in a route a lot of people may not expect, but that's going to be Dalton Schultz, the tight end. I think, a couple of guys that they added that you might speak on in the wide receiver room, but what was there already, and then you added this guy, coming back into this offense. I think it's a great weapon. Then you're adding more weapons, and some guys will probably hit on in this pod. But I just think what Dalton can do just for the passing game and what he's done, and even in the blocking game, I think he stepped up. But just being another piece of this offense, I think, a lot of weapons, and like you said, for CJ Stroud, what they did in this offseason, man, and I think this is just icing on the cake in the tight end locker room.
Yeah, I agree. I think he got the bag. Dalton, I know he got a 3-year deal, $36 million, average of $12 million per season, which isn't that bad. And he kind of acts as like a safety blanket for his quarterback, which is really nice, especially with a young quarterback. Even though he plays like he's not a young quarterback, still nice to have that. But obviously, Stephon Diggs stands out. I think that trading for an elite receiver like that would allow CJ Stroud to kind of just have a little bit more freedom, I think, to survey the field because he knows he's got that receiver one on the outside that can win quite frequently. And then you're kind of jocking these other guys down a slot with Noah Brown, Nico Collins, obviously. It was their top receiver last year. And then Tank Dell coming off injury, I think he could be really good as a complementary player to Diggs and Nico Collins. So very exciting things in Houston right now. I think they're the favorite for this division, really. I know we're not too far talking about the other teams, but you add Diggs to that offense, another year under the belt for CJ Stroud. That defense is really coming together. Signed to Nico Autry. Danielle Hunter, they brought in from Minnesota. Aziz Al-Shahir from Tennessee. I mean, they brought some guys in on this defense to really build on what they had. And I think that's really coming to fruition for them.
No, I agree with you. And if you want to, we can talk about, something you don't like. I'm going to go ahead and hit on one that I just didn't agree with this move. And understand it was a exchange for a 7th round pick, and that's Joe Mixon. I think what you got out of Singletary last year was impressive. You had Pierce that was supposed to be the guy. Singletary came in, won the running back room, and actually had some big time plays. I think you can definitely see a growth from him from where he was in Buffalo to then when he came to Houston. I mean, I'd rather give him a deal almost than go get Joe Mixon. I understand there was no Joe Burrow, so you can take what you've seen with Joe Mixon, I guess, different. But he just running backs to me, unless you're the elite like we've seen, Barkley and Derrick Henry, those guys. Joe Mixon does nothing for me. And like you're saying, you got that rookie quarterback. I think you can go get another guy beside Joe Mixon out of everyone in that running back, like free agency at the time.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't love the Joe Mixon signing. I think, what did they bring him in? 3 years, $25.5 million. So, that's a little over $8 million per season. I did look into their contract though, and they can get out of it next year with a $5.5 million in savings against the cap, only $4 million in dead cap. So that's good. But generally speaking, I don't think he's got that much tread left. And his kind of production kind of wasn't as good as it was in the past last year. And it's kind of like a Dalvin Cook situation in my mind, where you're bringing this guy in, you paid him all this money, and he's just not the player he used to be. But maybe he is. I know dynasty owners were happy about that because he's certainly going to get opportunity there. I think they got Dameon Pierce still, and I'm not sure who else they got at running back, but because Devin Singletary left. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of that. Also, man, I think Daniel Hunter is a good player, but I think they paid him a little too much, and I think that's just the cost of doing business and free agency. But 2-year, $49 million, man, like 2 and some change less than Christian Wilkins per season. That's the bag. I don't really love that for a player that's had some pretty significant injury history over the last couple of years. So, hopefully the man stays healthy, but we'll see on that one. I guess we can go ahead and move on to the next team here. We got the Indianapolis Colts, who really didn't have a crazy free agency. They brought a lot of their guys back. But what move really stood out to you, Christian?
I'm gonna go with their corner, Kenny Moore. I think this guy is probably the best slot corner in the league. I don't think I'm far fetched by saying that, but just having this guy to all the rest of their corners, man, I talked about it a good bit on some previous pods. They're just a young corner room. So bringing this guy back, knowing, hey, this spot's locked down, he can teach these younger guys. I think that's a big thing for them. And this defense moving forward, just know that you have this one corner that can, be a stepping stone with your younger guys moving forward for the next, 3 years, 30 mil. I mean, I think that's a good signing for them to get him pretty much one of the best guys, kind of, I think, on a hometown discount, you maybe can say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You don't pay slot corners the bag. Just generally speaking, I think they got good value there, though. He's probably one of the higher paid slot guys. He can move around a little bit. I don't think he's just a slot guy, but that's where he's best. And they had a pretty quiet free agency, like I was saying, but I think bringing back a guy like Michael Pittman when you're at this kind of critical juncture with your team, with trying to groom a young quarterback, Anthony Richardson, you need to make sure you have some weapons there. But I think just, what's her GM's name? Chris Ballard? I think that's his name. Anyway, he don't spend money in free agency. He needs to. Sometimes they're just always at the top of the NFL in cap space. And the cap space doesn't do you any good if you don't use it. I mean, eventually you got to kind of spend some of that money if you want to become a contender in the NFL. You got to bring in some more talent. I think they're kind of still lacking there, offensive line and as far as weaponry goes. So it'd be kind of interesting to see where they go in the draft. I think they got quite a few different options there. But Michael Pittman, 3 years, $70 million. I think that's perfectly fine in my eyes. I don't necessarily think he's the top 10 receiver. I think he's a good receiver, a low end receiver one. But you just need that kind of player for a young quarterback. So I'm 100% fine with that. Any one of them you didn't like?
Different. I ain't gonna say didn't like. I just think, another one that I will say I did like a lot is the Franklin signing. I think at linebacker position, overperformed last year, so he got paid this offseason. I think that's, he pretty much took on the, I guess you could say, Shakir, Shaq, yeah, God. He was so good for them, causing the fumbles, causing the turnovers. There's too many injuries last year. They traded him away to the Eagles. And then now you're getting Franklin locked up for the next, 3 years. I think that's a good signing. And just, the thing I wish they would have done, it's just like you said, Michael Pittman's a good signing, but it's just like, what else? Like, I think, Joe Flacco was another good move to kind of get Anthony Richardson, a vet, to come in and kind of sit, not behind, but just sit near and learn so much from Joe Flacco. So I guess you could say I don't like, I guess you would say, it's just not signing any other wide receivers or tight ends or something to help Anthony Richardson out.
Yeah, I agree there. I think Joe Flacco being a veteran presence coming and help the young quarterback kind of replace what they had in Gardner Minshew a little bit. I think where there's one player here, man, I just cannot believe they paid the way they did, and that's Raekwon Davis, man. Second round pick in 2020 for Miami. He came in. He's like 6'7", 315 pounds, D tackle, and dude just cannot anchor because he's so tall and just wasn't really great for us at all. And so him getting 2 years, 14 million kind of took me by surprise. I didn't think there'd be much of a market for him, but he kind of looks like DeForest Buckner in a way. He's got that kind of build, the tall, lean uh defensive lineman that can kind of move around, but he's not the athlete that he was. Maybe they want to ask him to lose some weight and decide to rush the passer a little. I don't know what they're going to do, but I didn't like that move. But we'll see going forward. I think they're pretty much a lock to take a tackle at 7. Joe Alt, I think, is you can almost just go ahead and write it in. That's who they're going to pick. But they got other needs on this roster. They do need it. Well, I'm talking about the wrong team, like a dummy. Tennessee is at 7. They'll be taking Joe Alt. But the Colts, they still have a good many amount of needs themselves. At 15, I definitely still think they could take a receiver to add with Michael Pittman. They also need a defensive back because, like you said, their young guys are not proven. Caleb Farley, first round pick from a couple years ago, and I don't know who else they have on the outside, but it's just not going to cut it, especially with Farley having the injury problems he's had in his young career. So they could go corner or receiver, especially if one of the receivers slides, and go Kenyon Mitchell from Toledo. I think that'd be an excellent move for them. Are you there, Christian?
Yeah, I hear you now. My bad. It's on me, but you're good.
Okay.
I didn't hear what your question was though. I ain't gonna flex to you.
Oh, I was just finishing up my point on the Colts. Do you have anything else you want to talk about the Colts?
No, just hopefully, Anthony Richardson health is a big thing I think for them. But it's just like I said, no adding in the wide receiver room and on the offense is a big question mark for me. But you still have the draft, so I mean they might can do something there.
Yeah, it's true. Jacksonville, I do have some strong opinions here, man. I do, but go ahead. What you
No,
think
okay,
about
I'm gonna go ahead
Jacksonville?
with hate, man, because there's one guy, man, on the pod I maybe have not been so vocal about the guy, but off the pod I have, and that is sorry, Gabe Davis. I don't think they should have went and got Gabe Davis. I think, they did have to go get somebody for the wide receiver room, but just why Gabe Davis, man? He's gonna let you down. Go call Josh Allen. That's all I'm gonna say. But I think a good signing I will say is Josh Allen. I think signing him, locking him up for the next 5 years. They did. I think today, to be honest with you, that we're recording this, I think locking up the edge, and we've seen that in this league now, you have to get to the quarterback to win games, and I think you see that with a lot of teams that are winning now. They're causing the least chaos either by their corners being good enough to lock stuff down, or it's their defense getting to the quarterback and making it where he's getting off schedule, off time. So I think locking Josh Allen up and just what he does for this team and what he means for this team, just not as his position, just being really a finding piece in their up and come up. But I just, hate, like I'm going to say, go back to it, man. Gabe Davis.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and highlight 2 moves I liked. I like the Devin Duvernay signing. I think that was a good signing. You already talked about the Josh Allen signing, but Devin Duvernay kind of being that special teams ace with them changing the kickoffs and everything. I think bringing a guy like that definitely helps. Both of these guys, Duvernay and Davis, if they have a profile and kind of what they can do well, and it is win down the field, which kind of meshes well with what Trevor Lawrence can do. So that's good. They also brought in Mac Jones. I think that was actually a solid move, especially if they're going to attempt to run Lawrence a little bit more this year, bringing in a very high-end backup. May not be a good starter, but just a pretty high-end backup, especially a lot of the stuff they do has crossover from Mac Jones' time at Alabama and running a very similar offense to what Lawrence ran when he was in college. So they got some common ground there. So I think that's good. But two contracts I really did not like. One was the Gabe Davis one. You already touched a little bit on that. But just based on the market and kind of the way things have went, the other player that got signed the same contract plays receiver was Darnell Mooney. So which one of those two players would you rather have had at that price point?
No, it's Gabe Davis.
I agree.
Even with the hate,
So,
it's Gabe Davis.
yeah. I don't like Gabe Davis either, but the receiver market was just stupid, man. None of them were good value in my eyes, but it's the price of doing business and free agency, I guess. I'm interested to see what Odell Beckham signs for. I'm hoping he lands in Miami, but I'm just worried about that price tag based on some of these other guys. Anyway, the other move I just could not stand, man, that they did, and that was bringing in Eric Armstead from the 49ers. I just think that, he got the bag. 3-year deal, $51 million. They can't get out of the contract, but you're paying a lot of money to a guy that has not proven he can stay on the field. And anytime you do that, that kind of just, I'm not a fan of it. I think they could have went a number of different directions, maybe addressed this position in the draft. There's a lot of good defensive linemen, especially interior defensive linemen in the draft early. Where did they pick? Jacksonville? They picked 17, man. They could have landed Johnny Newton. They could have landed Byron Murphy from Texas. And I think they're better players, and you're starting over. You're not paying nearly as much. And they could have went a little different direction, maybe a receiver, bringing somebody else in. I generally speaking, do not like the deal they gave out to most of these guys. But I will say, Devin Duvernay, I like that. Mac Jones, I like that. Bringing in Erza Cleveland, I also like that. And I like the Foye Oluokun signing. I think that's a kind of an unsung hero at times on their defense. He's very good in run defense, and he's made some splash plays in the pass defense. I think he's a good player, man. But yeah, just underwhelming free agency for Jacksonville. Remaining needs for them. I think DB corner would be the one that kind of, because they lost. They got Tyson Campbell still. They lost their other Darius Williams, a little bit older corner. I think,
Yeah, and then,
they're in the market for a
Griffin.
corner. I would not be surprised. Yeah, would not be surprised if they go corner in the first. But
No, I agree. They did what you get Darby, and then you get Savage to watch the back. I think that's a big ad. I will say Savage back
is a
there.
nice piece, yeah.
But it's just like, man, just what the rest of this division kind of looked like, and these are your moves. I just think you could have spent money better elsewhere.
Yeah. I don't think they really got that much better. So moving on to the final team in the AFC South, the Tennessee Titans. Man, before I rip this team, go ahead, man.
Yeah, like, man, you can tell by Brian, there's so much to hate. I'm gonna hit on, the big ones for me. You can say hate and thanks, and that's, man, we're gonna start with Ladarius Sneed. The best corner you in the NFL, and you went and traded for him. So you sent, future things for this guy. Granted, you have him for 4 years. What is $76.4 million contract that includes 55 guaranteed and a 20 mil signings bonus. And it's just like you're starting over as a team. You have new coach, no more Derrick Henry. It's the end of an era. You lose, one of the best coaches probably in Tennessee history, and Mike Vrabel.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of this, you go get Kenneth Murray from the Chargers. Like I said, love and hate. I appreciate you paying this guy because we were not going to do it. You signed him for 2 years, $15.5 million contract, and he just, as a Chargers fan, he's not covering nobody. He is just stopping the run. And then, another big one for me, I'm going to save, a couple for you, but it's the Mason Rudolph one. Why? That's just a question mark for me. You done brought in all these young guys. You have Ryan Tannehill, leaving finally, but it's just like, so this is your Ryan Tannehill replacement, Mason Rudolph. Is how I look at this. But, the big ones for me, Ladarius Sneed, definitely. They got 2 corners and paid a lot for them, and it's just like this team needs a lot more than just these high-end corners that you went and signed. But then you go get, like I said, Kenneth Murray, not impressive to me, and it's just, I don't know what they're thinking, because it's just, to me, it's rebuild, not so much as going money happy, and that's kind of what it looks like for me. Just, hey, we're bringing a new coach, let's at least give them something to work with, and that's what it kind of looks like to me.
Yeah. So earlier I said that Caleb Farley played for the Colts. He does not. He plays for the Titans. So, just wanted to make a correction there real quick before we move forward. But yeah, man, I don't know what Tennessee's doing right now. I guess they're bought in on Will Levis and they're trying to give him an opportunity to succeed, but they overpaid for Tony Pollard. They overpaid for Calvin Ridley. They paid a good contract and Lloyd Cushenberry. I think he's a pretty good player. They needed it. And then paid the bag to L'Jarius Sneed, brought in Chidobe Awuzie. I think they brought in some pretty good players, but I think they overpaid for a lot of these guys. And L'Jarius Sneed is an excellent corner, but like, are they in the time window to really do this? I think in their mind, if I'm trying to justify some of these moves, that they're thinking, well, we got a quarterback on the rookie deal. Let's try to make the most of this window and go win. But I don't think they're ready to win. I don't think they've shown that they have the capability, really. You add these players to the mix, I don't think it necessarily makes them the favorite in this division, and they spent good money here. So I'm just not a fan of their direction, just generally speaking. If I had to pick one that I did like, it is the Lloyd Cushenberry signing. I'd like that. And L'Jarius needs a good player. Contracts kind of big. Anyway, moving forward, what maybe they could address in the draft. I said it earlier. I'm going to say it again. Joe Alt, might as well say he's a Titan, man. He's one of the best prospects in the draft. Obviously, the top tackle, in my opinion. But if it was a different class that didn't have as much top-end talent, especially these receivers, I think he goes top 5. But they are in a good spot to land a really good talent at 7.
Yeah, my last thing I guess I'd like to add on Tennessee is the Ladarius Sneed. I can't get over it, but it's just like, we just went over these teams in this division, and it's just which of these teams have a wide receiver that you're so scared of that you go get Sneed. Like, I think this is a guy that, play, now, but, you didn't know that when you went and traded for him. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, like, it just Michael Pittman, that's the only thing I could think of. So he's going to be with the Colts for the future. You kind of knew that, what he is and what they need to do for Anthony Richardson, but it's just like, if I'm KC, appreciate you.
Yeah, but they didn't have anything at corner. I talked about it earlier. Caleb Farley. Who else they got? And then you're looking at the AFC. I know the AFC South ain't got receivers, but the AFC does. If you were trying to be legitimately competitive, you got to have a corner that can guard the Tyreek Hills of the world and the Garrett Wilsons. There's just a lot of good weaponry in the AFC. But generally,
like
in their division,
they have to believe in Will Levis. That's what It looks like to me. You have to believe, and I think that's the Tony Pollard thing. It's more so if you don't believe, you at least want something back there that you can. Hey, this guy will at least be something for you.
They must be changing how they're going to play offense, because Tony Pollard's not going to do the Derrick Henry role. And who's going to do the Henry role? Tajay Spears? They got 205-pound backs. It's going to have to change. Like, they're not going to play the same brand of football. And that kind of worries me, because can Will Levis adjust on the fly and be a different player? I kind of thought he would play similarly to Ryan Tannehill, and you do the play action, you do shots down the field, and you kind of play off the running game. And this is not structured to be that way, so it's gonna be interesting to see what they do. I'm not a fan of Tennessee and what they're doing, but we'll see. I guess moving on. Sorry, Tennessee fans. To the NFC South. Start with Atlanta. I guess before we move on, real quick, if you had to pick a team in the AFC South to win the division, who you going with?
Probably Houston, man. I want to say the Colts, but it's just what Houston did this offseason, man. They took
They won free
advantage of
agency.
what a rookie quarterback and what you're supposed to do with that rookie quarterback. Since CJ Stroud has got there, they have done everything right and everything they should have done. Maybe a team, we've talked about, Chicago Bears, should get some notepads out and write down some notes on how they're supposed to take care of a rookie quarterback. And it seems like this offseason, we're not talking about Chicago on this episode, but like Chicago has figured that out now, but Houston did it right from the beginning.
Yeah. So I guess do a quick little recap of my thoughts on the AFC South. I think the team that did the best free agency is Houston. I think the team that did the worst, I think you could say the Colts, or you could say Jacksonville. I think both of them underwhelming, to say the least. Colts bringing back their own guys for the most part, not spending a whole lot of money. And then, sorry, I just got a text message that was concerning. The heck, Jacksonville spending money on a bunch of guys I didn't really too much care for, but yeah, I think if I had to pick a team to win the division, I'd pick Houston. And if I had to pick a team to finish in the cellar, I'm gonna pick Tennessee.
No, I agree. I think Tennessee, like you said, change offense. I think they got been a minute. I'm not saying they got the guy from Cincinnati correct as the head coach. I'm thinking we will see very much maybe a Cincinnati type offense, and that's why they're getting the pieces they're getting. But I just don't see that working in year one.
No, I don't think so with Will Levis, especially. I'm not a fan. Maybe that's where some of it's stemming from. I don't know, but Atlanta. So interesting free agency class. They got a big hitter in here. Christian, what do you think?
Yeah, Kirk Cousins. They got a big hitter, all right. Man, a big hitter. All right, man.
Yeah.
I think that's what me and Brian both will talk about is Kirk Cousins. And I'm going to keep it kind of, I'm not going to beat the drum on this. By now, y'all have heard all the Kirk Cousins probably praise and hate. But I just think for Atlanta, this was a great signing. I think, they definitely overpaid. I think a guy coming off of an injury like he is, that's a big-time injury, and at his age is a big concern for me. But if he's healthy, man, this defense, they kept a lot of pieces from last year, and their defense was great last year. And I think with adding Kirk Cousins, the struggles that you've seen with this offense, definitely to me, I think a lot that I've seen that was struggling for them was the red zone. Now you have guys like Kirk Cousins that is going to work the field, know what he's doing, get your playmakers involved. And I think last year that's what we didn't see enough of, the Kyle Pitts, the Drake Londons. I think with Kirk Cousins, we've seen when he has a number one guy that's a legit number one, somehow, some way, Kirk Cousins at least give that guy the ball, and most of the time at a high rate. So I just think for Atlanta, this is a great move. Would I pay him this much? Definitely not. But, I think Atlanta sees this is their opportunity to at least win the division, and with a guy like Kirk, you can maybe make some noise in the playoffs with definitely, a young running back in Bijan. And then the wide receiver moves they made, man, I'm not going to say I hate them, but I think you could have went and got something better than what they got. And definitely, like you said, the wide receiver market was insane. And I guess that's why you kind of land on a Darnell Mooney out of all the guys that you could have got. But I think what they have there at house is, good, but it's just, I would like to see maybe one more icing on the cake signing in the wide receiver room. But other than that, man, their defense is great. I don't think they really needed to add much anyway.
Yeah, obviously I do like the Kirk Cousins signing. They paid him a lot, and he's coming off an Achilles injury, but he, for my money, is a proven quarterback. I think more so proven than most guys you could have got. I think maybe going the Justin Fields route would have been my preferred route, but Kirk Cousins is obviously a good player, man. Not much to say there. And $180 million. That's $45 million per season. That's a healthy number,
Jeez.
but it isn't like top of the market. But yeah, I think you go from Desmond Ridder to Kirk Cousins. That's a giant upgrade, and I think that this positions them well to win the division. I think that if I had to pick one, I would pick Atlanta right now. And Kirk Cousins being able to take a step back, man. Last year in Minnesota, and really maybe the year before that, he was having to carry a good bit of the weight with the running game slowing down, the defense giving up points. I think you come into a situation where quarterback was the missing piece, and now they have it, and it's somebody you can count on. And guys like Drake London and Kyle Pitts are going to, I think, have career years. And Bijan, because once you open up the pass game, that's going to open up the run game, and that's going to just give him more opportunities. And he's a back that can succeed in the air, in the passing game as well. And hopefully he gets some more carries than backup running back BYU, I think.
Oh, goodness.
Tyler Algier. That's
It starts with an A, yes. Goodness.
Tyler Algier. But if I had to pick one I didn't like, and it's Darnell Mooney. Not a big fan of that one. We'd already talked about that, so I'm not going to beat the drum too hard. But you're coming to a situation where you got Drake London, Darnell Mooney, and Rondell Moore as your 1, 2, and 3 at receiver, with Kyle Pitts at tight end position. They did bring in Charlie Warner as well, so they got some weapons. I don't think it's top tier as far as depth goes, but their top guys are solid, man. I like what they have. So we'll see what that looks like. And as far as the defensive side of the ball goes, they need edge badly. I think they're going to pick that with their top pick in the draft. So I think that's where they'll address that need. Shall we move on, or do you have any more thoughts about Atlanta?
Nah, we can go ahead and move on.
All right, Carolina. They spent some money, man. They spent some money this offseason. Anything specific stick out to you, man?
I'm going to let you talk about one of your ex-guys probably that you'd like to talk about. So I'm going to go Dante Johnson, man. I think in the wide receiver room is a big addition, man. Going from Adam Thielen, old, slow self, and then, Jonathan Mingo. Just a lot of the guys, Terrence Marshall, the guys that you thought would do something for this offense just didn't really do much, and it just hurt Bryce Young, hurt his development. I think Bryce Young's a smart quarterback, young quarterback, and you don't want to break him down already. And I think that's why they went and got Dante Johnson. I just think he does, for me, last year I did see a couple of key drops, and then it just his touchdown rate, he just struggles getting in the end zone. I don't know if that's a him thing or just what they were doing in Pittsburgh, but I just think adding him is a great thing. And then, building up this O-line, I'll let Brian probably talk about that more. He knows more about that guy than I do. But a hate comment for me, man, is the edge, man. You had Brian Burns. Let this man leave your room, and your replacement is Clowney. And, that's just I don't have much to say. Clowney did what he wanted to do, man. He has worked his little 1-year deals. And even now, I wouldn't say he bagged out by any means, but he's finally got paid a decent amount from all his 1-year deals that he's been dancing around with. And he worked the system. Not to the greatest, but at least they went and did something for the edge. But Brian Burns and what he did for this defense, and you replace it with, Clowney is your number one edge guy right now. It's just not moving the sticks for me. And then you lose a lot of other pieces on defense that, I think hurts them. So I think defense is the main thing for them in the draft, for at least me. I think that the offense does need a couple more pieces, but this defense needs a lot more than the offense to me, at least at this point.
Oh, man, I think they need a lot everywhere.
Everywhere, bro.
What they got at running back, Chuba Hubbard,
bro,
Miles Sanders, who they gave the bag to. And then receiver, they Deontay Johnson, Jonathan Mingo. What else do we have here at receiver? Let's see what they got. Oh, the Adam Thielen, you just mentioned his name. Terrence Marshall, second round pick a couple years ago. Yeah, man, that's just not enough for a quarterback like Bryce Young, who, if you're going to draw a parallel to, if he's going to have success in the NFL, it's going to take a similar path to what Tua Tagovailoa pad, and he's going to be a point guard for your offense. And so you need guys that can get open and separate, and that is what Deontay Johnson is. I think he is a good scheme fit, but he is walking in as the receiver one here. Of course, you do have Adam Thielen, but another year older Adam Thielen. How much does he really have left in the tank? He had some moments last year. I thought he played well, but you just need some more juice. I think Johnson gives you some more juice. I just don't love it. And as far as the offensive line goes, because I did want to talk about them, Robert Hunt, people were complaining. They gave him 5-year, $100 million. Robert Hunt is really good guard, like one of the best in the NFL. But people forget he can play tackle. He was drafted to play tackle, and he played tackle his rookie year for Miami. So he can play there if needed. And I think for a young, short quarterback like Bryce Young, you got to have the interior of the pocket clean. Because if you get guards walked up into his lap and he's got to exit, he doesn't necessarily have the mobility to outrun and outflank the edge rushers. So you got to have a clean pocket, and that kind of starts with the interior, where he can you can get beat at tackle and he can step up into the pocket and it's clean. That needs to happen for Bryce Young. So I'm fine with the Robert Hunt signing. I think if you're going to spend that much money, maybe not spend that much more money on another guard. That's kind of where my problems come in. They're spending a lot of money here and not premier positions. And then they did not get a whole lot of draft capital in return for Brian Burns. Also didn't get a lot of return from Christian McCaffrey. We kind of talked about this a couple pods ago when some country singer came out on Twitter and said this. I don't remember who it was. But yeah, man, just lots of money spent, and we'll see what happens. I still don't think they're going to be good next year, but at least they're attempting to give Bryce Young a chance, I guess. It'll be the optimistic point of view. We can't go without talking about them giving the bag to Derek Brown. I think he was the 5th overall draft pick. 6th overall, if I'm not mistaken, in 2020, right behind. No, he was in the 2020 draft, I think. Top pick. 5th and 6th picks were Herbert and Tua, so wasn't that those two picks? But early pick, staple of their defense. I think he broke a record for D tackles last year in tackles, which is incredibly impressive. Warranted that deal. I think he's a very good player. Pay your guys that have earned it in-house, and he certainly did. So congrats to him. You already talked about Clowney. I think as far as needs, you can say a lot of different things. I think they obviously have a need at receiver. I think they still need a center. They need some more on the D-line. I think they need a corner. They traded Dane Jackson or Dante Jackson to Pittsburgh in exchange for Deontay Johnson in a pick swap. So they need corner. I don't think they pick until pick 33. I think they got 2 second-round picks. Anyway, they can go a number of different directions. I'm not trying to guess where they're going to go there. But anything else before we move on?
No, like you said, just a lot of pieces, a lot of places.
Yeah, they need a lot. And they don't have a lot of draft capital either, so we'll see what happens there. And then we'll save this team for last, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
We'll move on to the Bucs. I know this is your guy. So what you got, man?
We'll start off, man. Baker Mayfield getting his payday that was earned, man. I think Baker Mayfield overplayed, I think a lot of expectations for Tampa Bay. I know Brian was not a believer very early on, and we can, watch back any pod and you can hear it. But I think giving him a 3-year, giving him the keys to this team and what he's done, 3 years, $100 million deal that includes $30 million guarantee. I think that's, locking up your quarterback, and I think that's a key thing for definitely this division. But another, guy that I said they had to bring back if they was going to have any more success going on into this next year, it was Mike Evans. Re-signing him for, 2 years, $52 million. Guy's not had under 1,000 yards with your franchise ever. So I think with that, if you're going to get your quarterback, you need to go ahead and get your wide receiver, and they've done this. And other things that, I think they did great was, Jordan Whitehead they signed from the Jets. They brought him over. I think that's good. 2 pieces in the back now because you have one that's his name somehow slipping my name, or not name, head.
Antonio
Winfield. Yeah, you have one guy that's already gonna lock up the field, and you know that this is your Pro Bowler. Yes, he didn't go last year for some odd reason, but now you got two safeties that are two playmakers. I think Whitehead hasn't became fully that playmaker, but we've seen some bright spots last year on the Jets defense. And then another thing that kind of hurts them for me at least is the edge is not what it used to be. I think you lose Barrett, you bring in Randy Gregory, who hasn't been. I mean, he was at Denver. He had some okay moments, but I think for me at least, like I said, my main thing definitely is, get to the quarterback. You got to have a strong edge room, I think, to make noise definitely later into this. And I think the ultimate goal is a Super Bowl. I think what we see a lot of these teams that win Super Bowls have either one, an elite quarterback, or two, an elite pass rush to be able to get to the quarterback. I think that's the thing that Tampa Bay's really missing on this team to me, is just that elite edge that can really get to the quarterback.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think this team made the right decision to bring back Baker Mayfield and bring back Mike Evans. Both very deserving on their deals. I think the Baker Mayfield deal is actually quite friendly for a team. You're not spending nearly as much as you will on the top of the market quarterback, and I think he played reasonably well last year, so I think it was warranted. And Mike Evans, obviously, we know about him. I think if you're Tampa Bay, you're trying to keep him around until he decides to hang it up. So I just have questions about this team's depth and just overall different positions. But I'm going to give my flowers to them, bringing back those two individuals. I think that's very good. They bring back Levante David as well, linebacker. Very good player, getting older. I don't see any moves here that I think are necessarily just not good. Like, I don't like what they did. I would complain about the Randy Gregory signing, but I think it's a $3 million contract. It's a low risk, low risk, high reward kind of contract. You're not really sticking your neck out for the guy, so I don't really have any problems. They got a lot of holes to fill. Is kind of my thing. Corner, they need one badly. They got Jamel Dean, and they got Zion McCollum, Anthony Nelson, Joe Try something. Bro, I don't even know his name. But so they just need a lot, dude. They need stuff across the defense. I know they need some offensive line as well. Ryan Jensen retired, so they'll have to replace him. He's a really good center. They need a right tackle. At least they got their left tackle. They got a right guard. I think they need a left guard. So they need interior offensive line. They need tight end, I would say. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Trey Palmer, I think you're good there. And then you're rolling with Rachaad White, who's a great player, but his backup is Chase Edmonds, and Chase Edmonds does not need to touch the field, dog. You need something else in the running back room. So hopefully they'll address that and not get hit with another bad running back selection like Keyshawn Vaughn a couple years ago from Vanderbilt. Anyway, don't love their class, but I think they made the right decision to bring back two of the top guys that they had. If I'm going to pick somewhere in the draft they could address early, it kind of just depends on who's falling to them. I think Graham Barton would be a good fit. If a corner falls into their lap, which very well could happen. Just kind of depends on when that run starts. I think that would be a good selection for him.
No, I agree.
Anything
Definitely
else before we
losing.
destroy the Saints?
No, you're good. I think definitely corner for them. Losing Carlton Davis and I think a couple other guys on that side is a big hole for them. Is the corner room.
Yeah.
All right, now we can go on to the Saints.
I guess I will move on to the New Orleans Saints. I think they are a very interesting football team. I'll start there. I don't love anything they did other than one move, and I'm about that, and that's the 1 year, $13 million deal for Chase Young, bringing in an edge rusher that can provide some juice. I think everyone knows that the guy is talented. I don't necessarily think that it's a sure thing. I think he's got his money is based on per games played, how much he gets paid. So I think that's a good way to structure the contract. But they'll have Cameron Jordan and Chase Young, Carl Granderson, early pick from a couple years ago, 2 years ago, Peyton Turner, but I think they overdrafted. Just a pretty decent group. I think they're just thin across the board. Do you have anything that sticks out to you, Christian?
I mean, Tyrann Matthew. I think, older player, good for them, but it's just like, when are we going to tear it down? Just when. That's my big thing, man. Just right now, your division is down and out. I mean, you can say, I think right now would be your time to kind of key upon that and kind of rebuild this thing, retool it, fire your coach even possibly, and just try to do what you can with what's kind of there right now.
Yeah. I don't know when they're going to tear it down, man. At some point, I've heard people say this, they got to take their medicine, man. They just kind of reboot. I think just continuing to string this along, you're putting yourself at a competitive disadvantage. I guess technically you're giving yourself a shot every year, but in this division that's starting to pick up steam now, I think this is the point where, okay, we're going to kind of do a fire sale, reset our spending, and then maybe by the time we're competitive again, these other teams will be going into a window where they're not able to capitalize because they're up against the books and they made a couple bad free agency decisions and now they're in a similar position, and then you will be at the competitive advantage. And I'd be doing this like the Mario Davis, 35 years old, giving him a contract extension, 2 years, so he's going to be 37 years old. They put 3 void years on the back of it. This man's going to be on the Saints books for 5 years, and he's 35 years old at linebacker. I just think that is rough. So I don't love anything they're doing. Really, you talked about Matthew. I think he's a good player, but I just how is this team going to be competitive? Derek Carr. Derek Carr.
Alvin
Yeah.
Kamara.
Gosh, man, it's
And Nathan Peterman now.
Where they pick 14. Yeah, I know. Woo! Man, I hope he gets some action this year. I think they go tackle in the first round because they lost Ryan Ramczyk, who's on the books too. So definitely think they're going to go tackle. But yeah, man, not a fan. Do you have anything before we wrap up?
Nah, man, Derek Carr hasn't been good since John Gruden.
Yeah. So I guess if I had to pick a team that would win the division this year, I would go with Atlanta. And then a team that would lose or finish in the cellar, Carolina. But
No facts.
I think that wraps us
100%.
up for today's pod. Thank everyone for listening. We will be back next week with another division breakdown of rankings. And thank everyone for coming to listen. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us on YouTube, Twitter, any of those platforms. And see you guys next time.
Just for one night, my feelings creeped up on the inside, and that's where they